pretend that it's not, but it's a Swiss crew, Swiss London crew, number 432 on the Berkshire station, up against Thames Rowing Club on the Buckinghamshire station. I'm really excited to see how this one plays out. Delighted to be joined by Ed Evans here in the commentary box. Ed, quad sculling.
I think to watch is one of the most beautiful boats you can. Sort of we expected to see in these championship boats, all the blades moving together really nicely, and when a quad's going correctly, you can say it sings. It glides along the water perfectly with each row dropping their oars in together, and you do get quite a symphony of movement from both boats.
Look at that, symphony of movement. Ed, this is why we've got you here. Bring the poetry. Bring the poetry. But at the moment, that composite, not having it all their own way at all. Thames Rowing Club, not surprising at all. Susie Perry, Pippa Whittaker, Natalie Hardy and Alex Stiles were winners at Wallingford Regatta and runners-up on the Sunday of the Met Regatta, and they also raced at Ghent International, finishing a place behind Oxford Brook. So a crew with plenty of power and plenty of technical ability. And I have to say, this is turning out to be a fantastic opener to the championship quads.
I wonder with the composite, could there be any sort of language barrier issue there? Because obviously they're from two different countries, and trying to get a composite to work in the first place is hard enough. But I imagine with a slight sort of language barrier there, that could be made slightly harder.
Well, yeah, it's a fair point to make. I suppose as well the styles of rowing might well diverge in a sort of an obstructive way. But at the moment, they look pretty good. I have to say that composite from Switzerland and London Rowing Club. Pauline Delacroix has raced internationally for Switzerland on a number of occasions and is an under-23 medalist with a best finish of 4th in the lightweight double at the Lucerne World Cup last year. So she's got a hell of a lot of experience, whereas London Rowing Club's Megan Jackson, winner of the elite singles at the Sculls Head last year and 6th in the women's sculls at the Met. So plenty of sculling pedigree on board, but at the moment they can't get the better of Thames Rowing Club, who are putting in a dogged, determined display.
Thames moving out slightly and more into the centre of the course there, actually, so trying to gain some dominance, I imagine, over the crew. There's not that much in it, so they were playing all their best tricks to try and gain that psychological advantage over the London Rowing Club composite.
Yeah, really exciting race. This one, as it makes its way down the course past the public enclosure and on towards Remenham Club and the finish line. I think we're almost already over halfway, such is the speed of these quad sculls. They often can move just as fast as 8 can. 8 blades propelling 4 athletes down the course. Really enjoyable to watch. As Ed pointed out, it's a symphony of rowing. And the synchronicity and the ability to row in time is something that's pretty much unrivaled in any other sport. But just watching that one make its way, we'll keep an eye on it, Ed. Yes. I don't think it's run its course yet, race 176. But race 177 underway, the University of London Boat Club on the Berkshire station, and Bremer Rudeverein, who I saw in the club quads earlier, decimate their opposition. So they've now got a championship quad in the mix. Let's see how they get on.
So off the start, we can't get a great picture of how the two crews are doing against each other. Both crews obviously in the championship events. There should be some pedigree within both the crews. Just as they come out of Temple Island, both crews look to be steering quite well. And in fact, as we come down in to just past Temple Island there, University of London seems to have taken the early lead, about half a boat length, over Bremer Rudeverein from Germany. The UL crew there having quite determined faces on, looking to try and beat the crew from Germany. Again, a crew that's travelled quite far to get to Henley Women's Regatta. That just shows the prestige and the appeal of the event. There we are, a lovely drone shot overhead of UL just edging out on Bremer Rudeverein. As we said earlier, the quad's moving just as fast as the 8s. I believe the world record times between the two boats are only about 15 seconds, which shows just how fast these boats can move if they're rowed well. Just as they come past the commentary box here, UL seem to have about 3/4 length lead over Bremer Rudeverein from Germany. who I imagine will start trying to make a move in the next few metres. UL not letting it go yet. The margin of difference has stayed pretty much the same since coming off of Temple Island. Both crews holding it quite steady, both looking quite relaxed. I have to say, Bremer, Devere and Bladework look very, very good, very together, and German efficiency almost.
Yeah, UL just looking a class apart at the moment. Robin Hart-Winks on board, who's in the Women's Championship 8 that won gold at Bucks Regatta. She also won the women's double, so a very talented athlete in her own right. And Rowe and Orr both won gold in the intermediate quad at Bucks Regatta. So plenty of talent on board this UL crew and displaying it to their full potential at this stage. A lot of former junior names in there. A couple of names I recognise from the likes of Henley, Reading Rowing Club, places like that. Now plying their trade at the University of London, and perhaps no better place in the UK to do it. To really develop from a junior into a senior athlete. The distinctive purple of UL. Perhaps one of the best colours you can wear to guarantee success. But crew 434 from the University of London Boat Club making a pretty good fist of this race. That's a smart quad, isn't it, Ed? It has to be said.
It definitely is. I have to say both quads are looking good, but there is definitely some technical scholars in there using that to their advantage. I know University of London has spent a lot of time working on their base aerobic capacity, especially in the women's sculling section. That's obviously paying off, and with that technique that is rivaled by the Germans, they still both crews looking very strong. Bremer and Devere looking slightly more sat upright as they try to chase down University of London, who have a slightly more front-ended stroke by the looks of it, bringing it around the back, nice arched back.
Yeah, this one not quite decided just yet. Bremer Rudeverein still in contact with UL at this stage, although the race is approaching the closing stages. So if they want to make a move, they need to do it now.
I wouldn't put it past them, though, to make a move and possibly turn the tides on this event. They're a very strong crew, obviously, entering the championship event and coming away from Germany. So the German coaches must have quite a lot of confidence in that crew.
Well, it'd have to be a move of seismic proportions to overturn a UL lead that they have established right from the off, and are looking like it will be enough to see them over the line, half a length ahead of the crew from Germany. That's a great win for UL, provided that result stands. That's a very strong performance from those girls. So at the moment, on the start, I'm led to believe that we don't actually have race 178, a contest between Brooks and Newcastle, because the crews on the start look nothing like Brooks and Newcastle. The crews on the start at the moment are part of the junior quad combination, and it's race 179 contested between Nottingham and Union Boat Club on the Berkshire Station and Marlow Rowing Club on the Buckinghamshire Station. The umpire's flag has just gone down, and those two crews have left the starts. Junior quads, something that I'm supposed to know quite a lot about. We'll see if that's put to the test here as those two crews leave the state boats.
Both crews getting off to a nice swift start, trying to make the most of that first bit. Of course, we've seen throughout today that a lot of the races have been decided within that first section of the race, the Temple Island. The umpire just warning crews there to stay apart as they come off the end of Temple Island.
Just looking at those two there, Ed, my money's on Marlow.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. Marlow, throughout the season, have been strong in every regatta they've entered. The heritage is there within the club, and they're putting down performance here as well.
Strong performance from these girls, and they've been off the scene of junior rowing for a little while, off the scene, so to speak, in terms of the summit of junior rowing. But this crew have been producing very competitive results. A fifth at the Scully was followed up by a bronze at the Sculls head of the river. And they weren't one of the favourites, perhaps, to medal at national schools, but managed a bronze medal ahead of the likes of Tideway Scullers and Headington which was a fantastic result for this crew. And I imagine they'll be looking to build on this with at least a semi-final placing in the junior quad category at Henley Women's Regatta.
Well, already it looks like that's quite a strong possibility, having opened up quite a substantial lead for this early on in the race. Almost opening up to 2 lengths there, I'd say. Marlowe looking incredibly strong from overhead. Another beautiful view of the quads. That blade work from both crews, in fact, looking really nice. All together, going straight forward, driving the legs down. And Marlowe seems to be opening up a lead, just inching over with every single stroke, taking that little inch off their opposition.
It's amazing, isn't it, that those girls are juniors. So well developed.
You can see where the next set of talent for the GB team is coming from, can't you?
Well, absolutely. So much conditioning, weight training, impressive structures that these clubs and schools have in place now, and they produce. The quality of athlete is remarkable. It's no wonder that the British junior under 23 system has started to benefit from that, because they are producing so many top athletes.
There's plenty of clubs around the place that have their Start ID programs in place, which provides the funding to create that better structure for the juniors, which in the end benefits everyone. GB team at the minute out of the second World Cup, and hope a lot of these girls, I imagine, shall be looking to be out there in a few years.
Well, there we go. Marlowe in a league of their own.
Looking quite relaxed, actually, coming down now. Seems to be just dropping the rate slightly, I'd say, just to conserve energy.
As you would at this stage, you've got, well, at the very least, you've got another 2 races, 3 if you want to progress to the final. So you want to make sure that you haven't spent your beans too early. I actually think these junior quads will be back in action again later today. So they'll want to make sure they haven't used up all their energy too early. And Marlowe can afford now, with some 4-length lead, to relax a little bit and enjoy the row down the course.
That's one of the unique challenges that Henley presents, actually, is for several races for the same crew on the same day, the nutrition that they need to get in to be able to sustain their power and energy throughout the races.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're moving back to race 178, which I believe wasn't ready to get underway in numerical order, but we're now joining it. It's a heat of the championship quad sculls between Oxford Brookes University A on the Berkshire station and Newcastle University on the Buckinghamshire station. A lot has been made of this Oxford Brookes crew. Runner-ups to Leander at Ghent, Imogen Mackey, Mary Wilson, Annabelle Stevens and Emily Herridge. And these girls have European University experience, championship experience, silver medals at the Junior Worlds, under 23 experience, so plenty of form and plenty of talent on board and showing it.
So Newcastle seemed to have a bit of an issue off the start. I couldn't quite see what happened, but I think they hit the booms off the start and then overcompensated for that by steering right away, and they are going to pay for that now as Oxford Brookes begin to open up a lead over them. Oxford Brookes, the notorious university club that has seen sort of probably one of the biggest changes over the last couple of decades with university rowing. Massive club now, just churning out top level crews, a lot of them going on to represent GB in the World Championships and Olympics, and they seem to be showing that it's not just the sweep that they are able to perfect.
Well, the rivalry between Brookes and Newcastle has grown more and more fierce as years have gone by. Brookes often trumping them on the men's side, but Newcastle traditionally stronger on the women's side, although that sort of tradition is being overturned here. Newcastle, though, I have to say, I think you might be right, Ed, something might have happened at the start, because I look at those 2 crews, I don't think Newcastle really deserve to be left down.
Newcastle had an issue at the start. I think they hit the booms, they stopped, had to deal with their blades a bit, but they are making quite a strong comeback now, and this will be pushing Brookes mentally and physically. It's always that, especially in something like Henley, that side-by-side racing environment, it's that decision either to stick strictly to your race plan, hope for the best, or to respond at different points to your opposition, and so it can go either way sometimes, and either one will work better.
Well, they're actually the reigning Bucks champions, Newcastle University, in 3rd place in the Met Regatta to back that up, so a very talented outfit. And Lola Anderson on board the Newcastle crew, who's a name I'm familiar with. She started rowing at Surbiton High School and produced a number of impressive results, not only domestically but internationally as well, and now she is applying her considerable talent to the Newcastle quad, who are edging back.
I wouldn't be able to call this at this stage at all. Both crews, a lovely shot from above there. Newcastle does look to have slightly better blade work there. They all seem to be slightly more together, and looks like they're making a move now, making a charge, just to try and claw that back from Brooks as we come towards the finish line.
Well, they've got to, haven't they? As you said, something happened at the start, and that would have had a very damaging effect on their ability to contest this race, but they've not let it get away from them, and they're still in contact with Brooks, which will be worrying for the latter.
Yes, Brooks are definitely being pushed at the minute. You can just see from this drone shot, you can't quite get the perspective, but you can see how much Brooks being pushed, and I wouldn't mind saying that Newcastle could take this race in the end.
Well, we will keep a close eye on that, but race 180 has just left the stake boats. It's the race scheduled off at 4 minutes past 3, and it is a contest in the junior quads between Glasgow Academy Rowing Club on the Berkshire Station and George Heriot Loch Lomond Rowing Club Composite on the Buckinghamshire Station. We will keep an eye on the Brooks Newcastle contest as it unfolds, because there's very little to choose between these two crews as they make their way towards the finish line.
So on the bottom left pitch, the junior quads coming through now. George Heriot and Loch Lomond just warned by the umpire off the start to stick to their side of the river. The umpire won't want them getting in the way of Glasgow Academy. And both crews seem to make quite a strong start. The bow of Glasgow Academy just looking around there, checking her steering.
Well, here we go. Top right hand. Sorry there, Ed. Top right hand corner of your picture. Newcastle and Brooks winding up for the finish line. It looks to me that Newcastle might well have rowed down Oxford Brooks. The camera focusing on them suggests that they have a stupendous finish from Newcastle to row through Brooks. They've actually taken nearly 2 lengths out of them in about 500 metres. So that was a remarkable effort from the girls from Newcastle.
Fantastic effort there, yeah. Newcastle just showing how useful their heritage and prestige is in their quads.
Let's swap up. Joe? Stick that underneath the green sheet. You enjoying it?
Yeah, that's good.
Sweet. I know you're enjoying it.
Commoner's back.
You just enjoy my company.
Commoner's back.
Commoner. So after that pretty impressive effort from Newcastle to run and Oxford Brooks, we join Glasgow Academy and a Scottish composite comprising George Heriot, Loch Lomond and Strathclyde Park contesting a heat of the junior quads, making their way down the course. At the moment it looks like Glasgow have the lead, but little to choose between them. Ian Summerside, of course, was the coach at Glasgow. I'm not sure if he still is, but he's well versed at producing excellent crews. There was a couple of years ago when Glasgow had a phenomenal boys and girls quad. But we'll keep an eye on that one as it progresses. An all Scottish affair, because we've moved on to race 181, Latimer Upper School, one of the class crews in the junior women's scull event, up against Sir William Perkins B School, crew number 370 on the Buckinghamshire Station. And there we go, we can see Latimer already moving out, being warned by the umpire for their steering. I'm sure they'll correct. There we go, moving back onto their station, but Latimer already moving out, Joe, in impressive style.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think both crews are looking ever so polished coming off the start, and really don't actually look too concerned about the fact that, you know, they're still side by side with each other. I think they've still got quite a lot of overlap, but Latimer just looking like they're just easing out and with such confidence that they've just executed exactly what they wanted to do.
Well, before Gloucester's remarkable run of 4 victories in a row in the Diamond Jubilee Challenge Cup, Latimer were the last club to win that event in 2013. Actually won it in only its second year of running, and they'll be eyeing up that prize this year because Gloucester haven't entered a crew into Henley Royal. And Latimer, course record holders at the school's head of the river, they won the Champ Girls category in a record-breaking time and won silver at the National Schools in the same event behind Henley Rowing Club. So it'll be interesting to see whether they can overturn that result here at Henley Women's Regatta, but at the moment showing no trouble in dispatching with the efforts of Sir William Perkins B.
Also, though, Sir William Perkins School having 2 quads in this event really does show the depth of the squad that they're talking about. You know, to have 8 girls training for this event full time, whilst, as Greg was saying earlier, completing their GCSEs and A levels is quite extraordinary. And Latimer are really just easing it out now. They don't seem to be putting down as much power as they were. They seem to have, you know, we've done our job and we're now going to kind of just paddle it home, save our legs for later. Tom, are these quads completing a second race today, or is it 2 races tomorrow?
So this is their first race of the day, and I believe they're back in action again later on. So Latimer, as you say, Joe, will need to conserve a bit of energy. You can just see Glasgow crossing the line, congratulating each other. I believe that was a win for those girls. So as we watch Latimer make their way down the course, let's just give you a quick rundown of some of the results from the last few races. Starting with the championship quads. Race 176 was a win for Thames Rowing Club over the London Swiss Composite. They won by 2 lengths. Race 177 was a win for UL by half a length over Bremer Rudeverein. And race 178 was a win for Newcastle University Boat Club in a remarkable turnaround of fortune. They ended up overturning a Brooks lead that had lasted for much of the race by 3/4 of a length.
I think there's a lot of crews that wish they could overturn a Brooks lead.
Yep, well, Newcastle will be celebrating that back on the banks. Race 179, a win for Marlow Rowing Club. The verdict, easily. So we're just watching Latimer make their way down
And I
the
think we
course.
can probably say that this will be a win for Latimer Upper, barring disaster.
Well, it'd be a nautical miracle, wouldn't it, for Sir William Perkins B. But never fear, if you are a supporter of Sir William Perkins, you can enjoy the efforts of your A crew, who, just as I speak, are getting off the start now in their contest against Maidenhead Rowing Club. Maidenhead closest to your picture there in the green on the Berkshire station, and Sir William Perkins A crew. Impressive, they've qualified 2 crews through to the regatta proper on the Buckinghamshire station. So William Perkins have an athlete in this crew who actually represented Great Britain at the Munich International Regatta in May. So she'll be crucial, pivotal even, to pushing her boat on, inspiring them. And actually they look like a pretty strong unit. Very cohesive, very together. Quite dynamic stroke, catching it nicely out front. And there we go. Just see a slight advantage for the crew on the left-hand side of your shot. That would be Sir William Perkins, boat number 352.
Looking ever so relaxed, I have to say. Both crews looking really relaxed and keeping the shoulders nice and low and just leaving it all in the legs, which is exactly what we want to see.
Well, I think we saw Sir William Perkins just matching Maidenhead stroke for stroke out at the start, and then from that point on, from around the end of the island, I think there was a call that went up in their boat, and every stroke from that point on, they've taken an inch, and an inch, and an inch, and an inch, and they're just creeping out.
I think that's also, it's such a valuable skill for junior rowers to learn, because you take it forward, is that you're not going to take a length off of a crew in 5 strokes. You've got to take it off inch by inch and keep working into your rhythm and take a little bit of, I can see some looks going over to the Maidenhead crew. Quick look over our shoulders, how far have we got to go?
A long way.
A long way. It's always scary when you're sitting on the start line looking at how far you've got to row and knowing probably how much it's going to hurt to get to the end of it. But these girls showing such confidence in their sculling ability as they're going along, which they definitely should, because the blade works good. And I just love the drone shot. I love that shot of a quad, don't you?
I think that's a common opinion, Joe, I have to say.
Maybe we're slightly biased in the commentary box here, but we're liking the drone view of the quads.
No, well, I hope you like it at home, wherever you happen to be watching. Quite a good audience here today, observing everything that's going on at Henley Women's Regatta. If you are in the area and you're wondering how best to spend your Saturday afternoon, can I just recommend watching the World Cup? No, coming down and watching Henley Women's Regatta. These are some of the best female athletes you'll see in the country, plying their trade on one of the most picturesque stretches of river in the world. What could be better for a beautiful summer Saturday afternoon than watching the finest female athletes in the country? And Sir William Perkins certainly putting in a good show here. They've just crept away from Maidenhead with every stroke, although they haven't actually broken that elastic yet.
No, it's they kind of creeped out to almost a length with a canvas, overlap, and it seems to have just stuck there. They don't seem to have inched any further out, particularly. But we are again hypothesizing here, but that could just be the confidence that they have in their abilities. There's a slight steering, by the looks of it, correction occurring in the Maidenhead boat. But Sir William Perkins, as I said, so confident, dead straight line. You could have probably put a ruler along the line that they took down the course today. So in the top right hand corner of our page, of your screen, we've just got the end phases of that Maidenhead William Perkins School Junior Quad Heat.
Yeah, just watching the quads make their way down the river, so we'll move on. Bottom left-hand corner of your picture, race 183. Aspirational Club, Coxless Falls, Mortlake Anglia and Alpha Boat Club on the Berkshire Station, and Llandaff Rowing Club on the Buckinghamshire Station. And a pretty tight affair so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Almost bow ball to bow ball at the moment, which is always a difficult position to be in, because you're like, yeah, this is what racing's all about. It's fun, but equally, I would quite like to be, 2 lengths up now and be feeling that this is quite easy. So,
well, for us, it's excellent, but for the athletes,
well, no, even as an athlete, I always thought, this is what I want. This is tight racing. It's what everyone wants, but it hurts as well.
No, I'd rather batter my crew by 5 lengths, but actually, you could just see their Llandaff slightly clashing with the booms, and they're heading in that direction again. They need to be very, very careful. Their blades are literally tickling the booms there.
Yes.
There we go. They've collided again with the booms. That's going to be bad news. They need to correct their steering pretty quickly. Umpire looking wistfully over. Mortlake Anglia and Alpha need to put on a spurt now. Take full advantage of that mishap in the Llandaff boat.
I think, unfortunately, with match racing, well, not unfortunately, but with match racing, you have to be cutthroat about this, don't you? You see an opportunity and you pounce on it and, make your opponents suffer as much as possible for their mistakes. And that was a huge steering mistake in the boat. Steering is incredibly difficult in these Cox's Falls, particularly as I think the wind has crept up.
Well, conditions, to my mind, are pretty much perfect, Joe, but, you say what you want. That's your opinion. No, I'm joking. The wind has come up a little bit, and it is making life a little bit more difficult for crews, especially when they come out of the shelter of Temple Island, and Llandaff struggling there to make the best of their Henley Women's Regatta experience. I think they're going to struggle to get back on terms with Mortlake Anglia and Alpha, who've got a lot of crews entered into the regatta proper this year. Nice to see them competing on all fronts, and we'll just keep an eye on that race, because it's by no means run its course as we get underway with race 184, another heat of the Aspirational Club, Coxless Falls, Vesta Rowing Club A on the Berkshire Station, and St Andrew Boat Club on the Buckinghamshire Station.
Happy to do that.
And
we've had another crash.
St Andrew
It does
Boat
seem
Club.
to be an occurrence. We've had this quite a lot with the Cox's Falls.
Particularly on the
over last
Buckinghamshire
2 days.
Station, it has to be said.
Yeah.
Crews making frequent and quite often haphazard visits to those opening set of booms on the Buckinghamshire Station, and that has effectively ended this race as a contest. Vesta Rowing Club able to just row away now, several lengths clear of their opposition from St Andrew Boat Club, and that'll be a real shame for the girls from Scotland, because they've travelled all this way to race on the Henley stretch and are not going to get to put in a fair reflection of their abilities.
I think that's one thing that is almost harder than losing just because you came up against a better crew, is knowing that you weren't able to put in your best performance. But it's also something that I think you learn from and actually come back fighting stronger when you do have an opportunity to give it everything you've got. You know just how vital it is to give it everything you've got.
Absolutely. And speaking of unfortunate occurrences, we saw Llandaff clash with the Booms as well a little earlier on that fateful Buckinghamshire station, and Mortlake Anglian and Alpha Boat Club have established a lead that looks insurmountable at this point. I don't think Llandaff, despite their best efforts, are going to come back on terms as we see those crews wind their way up towards the finish line. Just see Vesta swinging their way by our commentary booth, about 4 lengths up on St Andrew's Boat Club, who, credit to them, are still gunning for it. But I think that clash is going to prove costly. There we go, Mortlake crossing the line.
Crossing the line.
So, give you some results. Race 180 was a win for Glasgow Rowing Club, Glasgow Academy Rowing Club by 3 lengths. Race 181 was a win for Latimer Upper School. Very impressive showing from those girls. They won by 4.5 lengths. And Sir William Perkins A beat Maidenhead by a length. That was race 182. Currently on your screens is race 184 between Vesta Rowing Club on what is essentially the right-hand side of your screen and St Andrew Boat Club. If you're just joining us, St Andrew had a bit of a clash with the Booms a little earlier on the course and have paid the price some lengths down on their opposition.
So seeing Vesta take complete advantage of that initial clash from St Andrews, and has opened up quite a comfortable lead over their opposition. Now just paddling it back almost to the finish line. As we said earlier, so trying to conserve the energy that they will need for later races.
As always, we are keeping a close eye on the stream comments. So if you have anything you'd like to know, anything you'd like to hear, or anything that we're getting wrong, please do let us know via the comments. We will try and respond when we can. And as always, any crew information, if we are missing the glaringly obvious, please do tell us. We're only working with the resources in front of us and the hard work of all the research teams involved here at Henley Women's Regatta. You can imagine, as a record entry has been registered this year, there are a lot of athletes to try and cover. So please do let us know if we're getting anything wrong. But moving back to the start, race 185. The heat of the aspirational Coxless Fours, Royal Chester B up against Lee Rowing Club A on the Berkshire and Buckinghamshire stations respectively, just leaving the start there. Lee instantly recognisable in that luminous orange kit. And there we go. They've had a pretty good start there, Lee.
Yeah, definitely had the slightly tight. Is that a clash there, Blades?
Royal there with big
so,
clash,
yeah,
big
big
clash.
clash.
There we go. Steering issues there. The umpire
Ringing his bell.
ringing his bell. I'm not quite sure what that signifies, but both crews have stopped. That was a significant crash. And I wonder what's going to happen here. I didn't quite see who was where on the course.
It was hard to tell from the angle we got there who was in the wrong. Appeared to be backing it down to the start again.
Does look like that. Clash in the opening exchanges. It's good to see the umpire not being too officious, not prematurely ending anyone's Henley women's journey for no real reason. That was a clash in the opening 10 or 15 strokes, Ed. I don't think there's any reason why we can't rerun that.
No, they're at the start. There's no reason why the umpire should call out one of the crews on that. I think just bring them both back to the start and hoping for a slightly cleaner start this time. Hopefully we should see a nice, interesting start. And having this, we again get to see the crews fly out of the blocks. What's interesting is these are the aspirational Club 4s, which means that, generally speaking, the rowers in these boats have only been rowing a few years, nothing more than that, which means that to have made it to Henley Women's Regatta with the prestige the event has is quite an achievement in itself, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's become pretty much the bucket list event for a lot of female rowers all around the world. We've got entries from Mexico, Australia, the USA, France, Switzerland, Germany, all competing this weekend, as well as the usual cohort of English, Irish, Welsh and Scottish crews.
Just having the drone hover back over the start. Might get to see quite a good angle at this start now, actually.
Yeah,
From the drone.
That drone zooming over Temple Island. The flying spider, as Joe likes to call it. What that means, I'll leave you to work out. But it's giving us a pretty good illumination of what's going on at the start. Nice to see the umpire allowing both crews a fair crack at this race 185. This is a rerunning after a clash initially stopped both crews in their tracks. They've come forward, Ed.
They have
Ready for round two.
Go. See if we can make a better start this time. Waiting for the umpire to drop his flag. Just making sure the crews are both straight, so we don't have a repeat of last time. And they're off.
Yeah, leaving the state boats there.
Both crews looking slightly more tidy actually this time coming out. Both crews be looking to get an early advantage. Steering coming together again slightly actually. Royal Chester seem to have come over, but they've seemed to have overcompensated and gone back right the other side.
Looks to me that Lee have made the better of the two starts again, and Royal Chester being warned here. Both crews struggling to keep a hold of their steering,
which is something that these aspirational crews without a Cox may struggle to do, especially as Henley itself, the dividers between the two, like the racing line and the rest of the river, are notoriously unforgiving.
Of course, yeah, we could, I suppose, make excuses, but in reality, these crews, although the word aspirational is used in the title, a lot of them have been rowing for several years now. They're not novices. That'll be for the development level of category here at Henley Women's Regatta, so they know what they're doing. They're reasonably well-established club athletes, these girls, so should hopefully know the rudiments of steering a Cox's for. Of course, the Henley stretch is notorious, as you say, Ed, for its ability to look straight but not actually appear straight when you're rowing down it. But Lee, there we go, we can see them about 3/4 of a length up on their opposition from Royal Chester. But the umpire, a busy boy.
Yes, he seems to be sort of, you can hear his calls now as he comes down towards the commentary box, warning Royal Chester to stay over to their side of the river. And in this drone shot we can see the different rigging setups of the two fours there, with Lee, I forget my size of the boat sometimes, with Lee going, the stroke girl of Lee going to one side and Royal Chester going to the other side. What effect that has on boat speed depends on the crew normally.
Here we go, Lee just leading the pack here, swinging past our commentary booth position, which is about 50 metres in front of the barrier. And as they came past us, they were just straining to break clear of Royal Chester.
This could end up being quite a tight race. Royal Chester appears to be struggling with their steering a lot more than Lee, who seems to be taking advantage of that actually, and just making sure that they begin to open up an inch every stroke, just trying to break clear water between themselves and Royal Chester. Fantastic drone shot showing the crowds lining the banks at Henley Women's Regatta today, or hopefully having a good time, enjoying some quality racing. There we are, Lee Rowing Club still holding out over Royal Chester. Lee looking a lot more relaxed actually. Royal Chester steering slightly again, edging towards the booms on the Berkshire station.
Worth noting actually, Ed, that we shouldn't be too surprised at the performance of this Lee crew. Some of this crew, remnants of it, won the old club category at this event in a course record time last year. So they know this regatta pretty well, they know this course pretty well, and we shouldn't be at all surprised to see them performing well.
No, and I think you can see from the way that the crew looks quite relaxed actually there. I mean, they've got a good, quite high rating at the minute, but they do look quite relaxed and look quite comfortable in their boat as they come down past the barrier and through into the final stage of the race. Water level shot there of Lee, just hoping to continue opening up that slight advantage over Royal Chester as they come down over the crossing point.
Just a reminder, we are now moving into quarter-final territory. So the business end of Henley Women's Regatta showing its face for the first time here. We've had heats all morning and on into the early afternoon, but as we stretch into the long evening that these beautiful British summertime days allow us, it's going to be quarterfinals and then some semi-finals even to really satiate the appetite for tomorrow. Really looking forward to some fantastic racing. And Lee, provided they don't make a mess of the final few hundred metres, will be progressing through. So we'll turn our attention back the bottom left-hand side of your picture to more Lee. Very exciting race 186, aspirational Club 4's Thames Rowing Club on the Berkshire Station, who are currently leading this race around 3/4 of a length ahead of Lee Rowing Club B on the Buckinghamshire Station.
And being a B crew, Lee are already showing their strength there. And I always think that if a club has enough athletes to produce more than one crew and start lettering their crews A, B and so on and so forth, it just shows the talent they have within the crews. And Lee, as you said earlier, having won this event in a record time last year, obviously looking to make sure they stamp an ideal of dominance over all the other crews there.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. Demonstrate strength and depth, and all of these athletes would have been pushing each other on in selection and then competition in these two lineups. But at the moment, Thames Rowing Club doing all the early running here, about 3/4 of a length up on the Lee Rowing Club B crew. Interesting debate happening in the YouTube comments at the moment. If they've won the club event previously, why are they allowed to compete in the new event? The new format does allow some previous winners of the club category, the old senior category. So that is why we can see some of the athletes who've won this event before competing again for Henley Women's Regatta honours. Clearly don't feel that the step up to championship level is one they want to make at this stage, which is very much fair enough. And as we can see, Thames Rowing Club, probably one of the best rowing clubs in the UK for rowing and sculling, making a pretty good fist of this race so far.
Yeah, just as we've gone through the barrier there, Thames have just broken clear water over Lee's B crew, and then we're looking just to lengthen that lead with every stroke they can as we come past the regatta enclosure towards the tail end of this race. Nice close up there, the water level of Thames, the Thames crew coming down past the regatta enclosure, looking quite composed actually with their bucket rigging. I'm just hoping that unless something terrible were to happen, they can hold on to their win in this race. And it appears we're going back to the junior quad sculls up at the start on the Buckinghamshire Station Norwich Rowing Club, and on the Berkshire Station Latimer Upper Schools B crew.
Yeah, junior quads back underway here. Very exciting, and once again another demonstration of the depth of Latimer Upper Schools squad, that they can have not only an A quad that won convincingly earlier, but a B quad that leads their opposition to the end of the island.
Yes, as we come out of the island, the shelter the island provides ends, and then it comes down to how the crews can deal with slightly rougher conditions on the water. There's often a lot of movement under the surface here at Henley, because you sometimes see in the shots the amount of boat traffic moving up and down on the other side of the booms. But I think that sort of always adds to the dynamic and the individuality that Henley has.
Absolutely, it makes Henley what it is: a race for all seasons and a race for all types of competitors, those who can deal well with that sort of thing. And actually, it's worth noting this Latimer B crew are arguably the fastest B boat in the country at the moment. They came 8th in the Championship Girls category at the National Schools and were the fastest B boat on the day, so they certainly know what they're doing, and they've obviously been training a considerable amount with their A crew, who are one of the fastest crews in the country, full stop. So we'll have plenty of racing experience, match racing experience, especially important on this women's regatta stretch. And just as they come past us, they've got about a length, need to be a little bit careful of their steering, drifting into the middle of the river here. Northwich, though, look pretty calm and collected, it has to be said. I imagine they'll have a gear change or two to exert in the middle of the race.
Yeah, both these crews are, as you say, Latimer Upper being one of the best B crews in the country at the moment, but Northwich, we can't discount them. They are definitely a very strong crew, and I imagine they'll be sticking to quite a tight race plan. And this race definitely isn't over yet. Latimer Upper have broken clear water between the boats, but Northwich will be trying their very best to get back up to Latimer Upper.
Just watching Thames make their way down the course in that aspirational club Coxless 4 event. They've dispatched Lee pretty convincingly there. And it looks like Latimer Upper B are going to be doing the same to Northwich, Ed.
Yes, it does. They just seem to have, ever since the island, they seem to have just opened up an inch of clear water every stroke, just bringing it through and making sure that Northwich don't have any chance of coming back. Definitely a very effective B crew. And again, just demonstrates, as we said earlier, how these bigger clubs like Latimer Upper have that depth to be able to put out a B crew that's rivaling some of the best in the country.
Very impressive indeed. And just watching the next race lead the state boats, I'm going to give myself a 20-minute break. I've been on for nearly 3 hours now, and you're all going to be very fed up of my voice. I'm going to let Joe Brown take over for a few minutes alongside Ed until the shift swaps over.
Hi guys, I'm back again. So, watching the race come down now, another very, very close race just coming off the start boats are Royal Shrewsbury School on the Berkshire Station and Henley Rowing Club on the Bucks Station. Henley Rowing Club have had a phenomenal season, I think you'd agree, Ed. And the girls are just going from strength to strength. And this quad is showing that exactly that. Their season has been a phenomenal season. They won the Championship 8 at National Schools Regatta. And this really is showing just how much confidence they have in their training and their coaching demonstrated here today.
So Henley have opened up quite a substantial lead already, just coming out of the island. And as we said, their programme is obviously providing them with the confidence and talent to take everything away from the Royal Shrewsbury Schools girls quad. Henley looking quite relaxed actually as they sort of begin to open up that lead and execute what I imagine is a very well thought through race plan.
Just looking so in sync with each other, and now that that essentially they've done the hard work now. They've put the distance between themselves and Royal Shrewsbury, and they can conserve some energy for the next round and just kind of take it home. What they want to do now is work on something that they think they might need in the next round. So we're going to paddle it, but we're going to focus on our pushes, or we're going to focus on our sprint, or just to give it a little bit of a test out. But with this distance between the crews now, to a large extent, your head's a little bit not as focused on this particular race as it would be if you were still side by side at this stage.
Yeah, Henley definitely have the mental advantage here. And for Royal Shrewsbury, as soon as Henley disappeared out of their peripheral vision, any sort of mental hope of bringing the race back began to fade away. And Henley, as we just said, will now be concentrating on really a technical aspect of their stroke, and their rate begins to drop slightly because they have the confidence that they can win this race quite comfortably with clear water between themselves and Royal Shrewsbury.
And they have really brought the rate down now. You can see that they are just paddling at home. They know they've done the work that they need to do it, and I mean, as you can see from the picture that we're seeing on our screens at the moment, they are not anywhere near full gas going towards the finish line, and I think that's exactly the position that they wanted to be in. And so, we keep saying about this race plan of get ahead and stay ahead, but match racing is about that. You can't psych them out and hope for a sprint finish and stick to your race plan if they're 2 lengths ahead of you. And this is exactly what Henley have done. They've stuck to the plan of let's get ahead and stay ahead, and they've just inched it out. And I would say that's now a significant lead of 3, maybe even 4 lengths.
Yeah, there's plenty of clear water in the two crews there as they come just past the regatta enclosure, away from the eyes of the spectators. And they'll just be looking to finish off this in style. and just make sure that they have enough energy for the next race.
Start there, race 1.
Okay, so while we're watching the end of that race, we're just going to catch up on some results. So race 183, Mortlake at Anglia and Alpha Boat Club overturned Landaf, even. Apologies for that. Rowing Club by 1 length in time of 5:30.59. Then we have race 184, Vesta Rowing Club overturned St Andrews Boat Club by 2 lengths in time of 5:28.15. Race 185, Lee Rowing Club overturned Royal Chester Rowing Club by 1 3/4 lengths in a time of 5:21.66. And then the final race of the Aspirational Club Cox's Falls is race 186. Thames Rowing Club overturned Lee Rowing Club by 3.5 lengths in a time of 5:27.49. So that's the results for the Aspirational Club Cox's Falls. And after the end of this junior quads, we'll give you an update on those results. But as we can see on our screens now, Henley really are just paddling it home now. I think, they're very confident in their ability to perform as they wanted off the start, and it was an incredibly clean start, wouldn't you say, Ed? That the margin really was made in those first 5 strokes.
Yeah, this is just proving what we've seen throughout the day. Actually, is that results are often decided by the time we reach the end of Temple Island.
And so we're on to the third race of this junior quad section of races that we're looking at now. So on the Berkshire station we have Surbiton High School, and on the Buck station we have Headington School A. Now, we've said before, Headington School A are always a formidable opponent to come up against. Their junior girls rowing programme has been established for so many years now, and they've got such depth in their squad. We were hearing at National Schools Regatta, unfortunately Henley Rowing Club stood in their way, but they didn't get their 10th win in the Championships 8. So 10 years of high quality racing really does demonstrate just how strong Henley are, and that's proven in their quads in this category. A significant lead already as they just come past the end of Temple Island, and I would say they've got open water already.
Yeah, you saw if you just caught the beginning of that race, Headington absolutely flew out of the blocks, absolutely rating as high as they possibly could out the blocks. And again, I think this is just what we're seeing over and over again, the race plan of get out and hold it, much like the Italians would at the World
But they
Cup.
aren't going at 55
No,
strokes a minute, but they
quite
are
as mad as the
high
Italians.
rating, yes. And Headington really are just showing the confidence. They're coming towards our commentary box here, and I have to say they are just a class outfit, that crew. They really are so in sync with one another, don't miss anything at the front end, and there's just a dynamic bounce to that boat. You can see the shell just moving along really nicely. There's no picking it up every stroke, they're tapping it along and just adding speed to it, and that really is reflecting in how they are just creeping away from Surbiton every single stroke.
We often talk about in rowing how we like to see the bow run nice and smooth, and even though we can't set with Headington, what we can see is that their pickups are incredibly smooth, and that movement with the shell is just carrying them on every stroke and allowing them to inch out onto Burton with every stroke they make. You can just see the back of Headington School coming down now, just through the barrier there, having masses of clear water between themselves and Surbiton.
I think this, particularly when you've got some big names, Latimer Upper, Henley Rowing Club, and by the looks of it, barring disaster, Headington Rowing Club going into the quarterfinals, you really are going to have quite an impressive, semi-finals I think for this event now, semi-finals, sorry. You really are going to have some stiff competition between those clubs. I mean, the rivalry between Henley Rowing Club girls squad and Headington Rowing Club has been developing over this season, but for years, and I'm sure, I have no doubt that will kind of rise up once again if they meet each other in semi-finals or indeed the final. Okay, so it's looking like Headington have a lead in that race. The final quarterfinal is Queen Anne's School A on the Berkshire station and Tideway Sculls School A on the Buck station, and that's race 192. They've just come out of the start blocks, and Tideway Sculls have already taken a lead. But we have a significant crab for the stroke girl. The 3 seaters had to stop rowing. The whole boat has had to stop rowing. They've crashed into the booms. This really is a disastrous start for Tideway Sculls. And you can see that Queen Anne's School have just completely taken advantage of that.
Yeah, Queen Anne's will definitely be looking to capitalise on that. Both of these crews that we've seen here are the A crews, respectively, for Tideway Sculls and Queen Anne's. Queen Anne's using that incident with Tideway, the booms and the crab, just to edge out instantly.
That really was just disastrous for Tideway Sculls, and you can just feel for the girls because, you know, how you now complete a race when that has happened, and you know that, you know, barring disaster now for Queen Anne's, there is very little hope of you getting back on terms. But Tideway are back into their swing of things, and it does come a point now where when that sort of incident has happened, you have to treat it like, you know, a 500-metre sprint just to get back on terms. And once you've got back on terms, then you can settle down into a pace. So we can see them approaching the commentator's box now, and Tideway Sculls really are giving it everything they've got. They've almost, I think, got overlap on Queen Anne's now, and they are just moving back slowly but surely. They've only they're about 3 feet away from having overlap on their bow on the stern, and Scullers really are now giving it everything that they've got, and we can hear the coaches giving them some encouragement as they come past. Those girls really have got the biggest fight of their lives on their hands right now.
I was about to say that when Tideway had that incident, that 1,500 metres suddenly seems like a long way, but by the looks of it, then their race plan now is to make it disappear, and it almost looks to me like they're coming through Queen Anne's.
I think what is interesting in this scenario is they really have had to sprint to keep up with them. You know, it's looking as if they're almost level again now. And after that incident, that really is a huge credit to the crew to have the mental strength and resilience to say, okay, everything wrong could have happened. We caught a crab, we crashed into the booms, we had to stop rowing, we had to restart. And that they've now, I think, just rowed through Queen Anne's, if I'm right in saying it.
Yes, they have. The question now is, will Tideway pay for that sudden sprint later on in the race? This race definitely isn't over yet. I mean, credit to Tideway Sculls. It's absolutely fantastic to see them come back from such a terrible incident.
But their legs are going to be hurting now.
They are.
They
the
are
legs
really,
will be building up.
They are going to be hurting, and it's the tension as well, as Greg was saying earlier in the day. If you've been following us all day, about the tension in the shoulders, and directly you start to get a bit tense, everything becomes a lot shorter, and you really lose that ability just to drive the legs down and propel the boat backwards for a rower. So you know, it's going to be a testament to whether they've got the head, they've got the composure to actually say, no, we've got this and we're going to finish it.
I mean, by the looks of it, they have. I mean, from what I can see here, the drone shot, they now have clear water.
And that really was an extraordinary second
unbelievable.
start and recovery from Tideway Sculls, and just demonstrating the composure, the maturity and the strength of their junior squad. Now we're back at the start line with the aspirational quads, race 191. And on the Berkshire station we've got Bremer Ruddersveen,
I believe.
Yeah.
From my German days.
Apologies, guys. I'm not the best at my languages here. And Gloucester Hartbury on the Buck station. Now, from what we can see so far, it looks like the Gloucester girls have gone out in front.
Yes, Gloucester will be looking to, as we've seen so far, make an early move against their German rivals. Just making sure they extend out over the Germans to make sure that they have that psychological advantage. And as we've seen, having that as they come away from Temple Island is instantly a benefit to them.
And they really have got a significant lead now. That's 2, maybe 3 lengths on the German crew. And they are just eating it up, eating the water up. You know, you have the situation of in races where you say they've run out of water, and those girls are just eating the water up so easily.
You can see Tideway there, smiles on the faces. They are very, very happy with that result, having rode through Queen Anne's School after a disastrous start of crashing into the booms and catching a crab.
I wonder whether that will give them a bit of a wake-up call for the focus that needs to be put into the beginning of that race. You can never take any you can't take any liberties when it comes to match racing, because you've got one shot at those races, and this Dutch crew are definitely taking that one shot by the hands and grabbing it with everything that they've got. They really have eked out such a significant lead now, almost insurmountable, I would think, for Gloucester Hartbury.
Yeah, the Germans have just come away. You've got a lovely shot of them along the water there, looking quite comfortable. Lovely long stroke actually there from the Germans.
So composed, and that body movement really is in sync with each other. But interestingly, they don't seem to be gaining in the last kind of 100 metres. They don't seem to have gained a significant amount of space on the Gloucester Hartbury crew.
No, the question.
And Gloucester looking like their blade work is incredibly good as well as we come.
Both crews looking
So
quite sharp.
back to the start line again. We're trying to catch up a little bit, I believe, for the regatta. So race 193 Multi Boat Club on the Berkshire Station, and Reading University Boat Club. That was race 192 Tideway Scullers on the Berkshire Station, and Neuhaus Composite on the Bucks Station. Neuhaus obviously coming over from the Netherlands, and I would say this is potentially going to be a good fight between them, but it's looking like Neuhaus have come flying out of the gates, but they're getting close to the booms as well, I think, from what I can see here.
Yeah, I think the Netherlands crew there need to be incredibly careful. We've seen the booms yesterday take out an entire force, smashing their blades to bits, and we've seen today, a couple of races ago, Scullers just get caught on those booms. They come out of Temple Island, but they seem to have stood it quite well and opening up a lead over the A crew from Tideway.
And it's interesting that a lot of the steering issues that we've seen has been in the Cox's fours and not quads. I think the quads have a bit more stability to them. You've got just a little bit more, assurance that you've got 4 blades going in, 4 blades coming out, and everyone hopefully being symmetrical in what they're doing.
Yeah, the symmetry thing there with the quads. Everyone's moving forward together and no one's leaning out. And sometimes you see 4s and 8s going along and the boat tends to lean to one side because of weight distributions and things. So generally in the quads you have a more stable platform for the steers, man or woman, to take an easier line. Now
Tideway here, Scullers are fighting to keep that overlap, but I think it's rapidly disappearing for them. They really are holding on by the edge of their teeth to keep the overlap on this crew from the Netherlands. But as they come past, the Netherlands just looking so composed.
Beautiful blade work from the Netherlands there actually, and not to discount Tideway at all, but the Netherlands looking very comfortable, the blades all sinking together. Looks like quite a front-ended stroke, just hammering the legs down with every stroke, just making sure the Tideway can't come back on them.
Rowing quite upright as well, the Netherlands crew, which is, as I said before, it's always interesting. Even though everyone's doing exactly the same thing, they all do it in slightly different ways, and rowing ever so upright there.
Yeah,
but as you said, not to take anything away from the Tideway Sculler School, but they are a very strong outfit in themselves, but they really just have been completely overhauled by the Netherlands crew.
Yeah, lovely shot. The Netherlands crew coming through there, looking, like you say, very composed, very calm. I think just enjoying rowing down the Henley course at the minute, knowing that unless a disaster was to befall them, they have got through this race.
And actually it's interesting because when you look at their finishes, then they're not putting an emphasis on the finish. Then they don't have a big back end at the back end of the stroke, but they really do seem to just keep tapping the boat along. They're defending boat speed with every stroke. They're not losing anything, which I think is a testament to their blade work and to their technical abilities.
I think they're sort of using the classic rowing technique of a very front-ended leg-heavy stroke and just letting the arms bring the blades around the back and set themselves up for the next stroke.
I was always told to finish one stroke before you start the next, and I think that's the arms are just finishing the stroke and not trying to add anything to it.
Often uses the analogy of a piece of rope pulling the blades back, and then letting it swing through into the next stroke.
And we are back up to the start for race 193, Molesey Boat Club on the Berkshire Station and Reading University Boat Club A boat on the Buck Station. They are flying out of the blocks. Molesey really giving it everything they've got out of the blocks there.
I'd say Molesey seems to have a slightly shorter stroke than Reading. They don't quite seem to get the same compression, whether that's just out of the start, whether that will prevail throughout the entire race, I'm not sure.
But that extra compression from the Reading University Boat Club boat really seems to have paid dividends as they're coming up to the end of Temple Island, and it looks like they've already got a length lead on the Molesey boat, which I have to say was a bit surprising. Those first few strokes, they just seemed to be together, both boats, but this Reading crew really has just shot out of the blocks.
I think Reading, as a club themselves, have become slightly more well known over recent years. They weren't often well known on the race circuit, but now they seem to be making their name over quite an established Molesey crew.
Yeah, and I think they're developing more and more athletes in higher and higher places. I think Flo Pickles is representing Reading Boat Club in the championship singles, lightweight singles.
It seems to me that Molesey have got that compression back now, which will hopefully, for them anyway, give them that extra bit of oomph to try and get back onto Reading's heels.
As we've said though, with all these crews, the crews that are leading these races out really are very relaxed, very smooth, very long. But actually, I think Molesey are coming back onto terms with Reading at the moment, I would say.
They are.
They really are. Every stroke they're inching back, and that could have been a big push. But it's just about how much the Reading crew have mental strength as well as physical strength to not let themselves be, intimidated. Molesey Boat Club, we all know Molesey Boat Club. The name, it's a huge name. It's got so much backing behind them, and not be intimidated by that and stick on their race plan. At the end of the day, they came out in front and they are holding on to that lead, but it's rapidly diminishing.
I think almost Molesey have taken something out of Reading now. I can't quite tell from this angle.
Are you going to put your money down and say it's going to be a Molesey win, Ed?
I think I'm going to have to.
Are you going to have to? We'll see if the commentator's curse is going to affect Molesey now, but it's definitely looking like momentum is on their side at the moment.
Reading still looking quite composed and relaxed, actually, and I think that's a huge testament to them, is not to be fazed by such a strong crew, and just to keep rowing through and keep that strong long rhythm that they had ever since the start going.
The base pace of the Molesey crew does just seem to be slightly higher than the Reading crew, and you wonder whether actually the start is something they haven't particularly focused on, and that's why they didn't stay with Reading as they came out of the blocks, because they knew that this base pace was going to be so much faster.
Generally crews like to play to their strengths, and if Molesey have sort of established throughout the winter that, maybe their best strengths come in the long run.
I think the classic example of that is the Kiwi pair, which I think everyone aspires to be rowing like the Kiwi pair, but it really is they're in 6th place and at the 500 metre mark, well, by the next 500 metre mark, they're going to be in 1st place. So that base pace really can play a huge factor in a race, and it's looking like Molesey are really using that to their advantage here, keeping it so long and just tapping it away, just inching slowly out.
Beautiful shot again from above, looking down at the quads. Reading don't seem to let them go though. They seem to be having quite a good crack at trying to hunt down Molesey again.
It's that awful canvas that just won't disappear, and you're trying to break them, and you're trying to end the race, and you're trying to get clear water, but it's just not breaking for the Molesey crew at the moment from Reading. And as you said, that is really a testament to just how much strength the Reading crew has, despite being rowed through by the Molesey crew. They really are sticking with them.
I think Reading's style is going to be marvelled at. The speed they came out of those blocks.
Absolutely,
it's absolutely phenomenal.
They really did fly out of the blocks. And sometimes you wonder whether was that their race plan? Did they try and psych out the Molesey boat by being so fast out of the blocks? I think, if I'm honest, I'd probably say they probably did surprise Molesey with just how fast they did come out of the blocks from that Reading crew. And I think we'll keep an eye on the end of that race, because Reading have definitely by no means given up the fight yet, but we're going to head back to the start for race 194, which is the last of the aspirational quads. So Bath University and Minerva Bath composite crew on the Berkshire station and Imperial College on the Bucks station. Both crews have a lot of experience in their boats, and they will see if that plays dividends here. Both of them, it seems to be a pretty level playing field at the moment, with a slight advantage to the Bath composite.
Yes, I mean, it's obviously it's quite early in the race still, but we seem to see Bath using that first bit of Temple Island to try and gain a psychological advantage over Imperial College. We can see that we saw this race with the Bath composite earlier today, and we saw just how well the composite has actually paid off for them.
And you can see they're almost going stroke for stroke now, with Imperial just maybe slightly higher rating, knowing that they have to keep that contact if they want to be in with a chance of hunting the Bath composite down. But I have to say the steering in this race hasn't been the smoothest we've seen from the Cox race from the quads.
Definitely not. I think Imperial seem to be pushing the Bath crew over slightly towards the booms. I assume the umpire's quite happy with that. There's enough water between them not to cause too many issues.
And I think the difference, as we were saying earlier about shells and the way it's moving in the water, that really is showing at the moment, because as they've just come past our commentary box, we can see that the Bath composite shell is just running smoother through the water. It's not looking quite so heavy, whereas the Imperial boat just looked a bit heavy, a bit kind of dead speedy. When the blades weren't in the water, it just didn't seem to be kind of defending their boat speed that they're trying so hard to create with their legs during the drive.
We talk about free speed in rowing, and we can see the Bath crew trying to capitalise on that with that lovely straight run of the bow ball. And they're wasting no energy in that bow ball going up and down. Beautiful shot there, actually. You can see this the shark fin on the end of their boat staying above the water as they row down.
And I think no one will refuse free speed. It's all about trying to preserve as much of it as you can, and certainly in these situations you want any slight advantage that you can to make it slightly easier on yourself. And I think we can see the Bath crew putting a little bit of just a relaxation in. They're not looking as if they are going all guns blazing anymore, knowing they've got another round to come.
Again, conserving that energy for later races, knowing that again they have that next round to come, and not wanting to exert themselves too much. They need that physical ability to try and take down their next opposition.
And it does become the whole regatta, just as with Henley Royal as well, it's about managing your athletes as a coach, and it's about managing yourself if you're an athlete, about refueling, recovering. There's some physios down at the boating areas which the athletes are using on a regular basis. You see them queuing up there when you walk down and have a look at the boating area. It really is about getting ready